Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on the part of the world you are coming from. And welcome to the session Around the World with PTE Academic. This is the fifth session. So if you're interested in watching the previous session, or I hope that you attended the previous session, so you'll get the link by the end to this website where you can access the recording, where you can register for the sessions. So we talked about AI in scoring. We talked about dealing with retakers. We talked about pronunciation, and we talked about the general best practice strategies. I can see that the people are using chat, which is good because you'll be using chat today. Our presenter is interactive, so we'll be communicating with you. So the chat is open and the number is growing up. And today is the advanced vocabulary for PTE Academic. One thing, by the end of this webinar, you will get in the chat a link to download your certificate, and you will get in the chat the link to the survey, plus some extra additional links with materials. So stay tuned, because those elements will follow by the very end of the session. So Anna China, and what I'm really grateful about in this one, that we have the real practitioner. So we've got the preparation teacher that is actively involved in the language preparation process towards PTE Academic. Anna China, the floor is yours. If you could share some more elements about you as a person, about your background, and then straight into the wonderful theme of advanced vocabulary. Over to you.
Well, hello, Bartek. Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. I just love talking to teachers. In fact, it's one of my favorite things is students and teachers, and of course, English. So I've been a foreign language teacher for over 30 years, and I'm really passionate about it. And I'm very careful with the word that I'm going to use now, but I feel truly that as an English teacher, you can empower your students in all senses for them to grow professionally, academically, and personally. And it's so rewarding to see our students, achieve their success. And of course, as an English teacher, there are some challenges, but I always say a bad day is even a good day. So even a bad day by the end of the day is a good day. So when I started off teaching always English as a foreign language, my master, my PhD, it's all based on applied linguistics, because I feel that research is the best way to find solutions. But the real solution comes from being on the floor with the students. So today I'm going to share with you some of my experience of teaching students, in particular when we're teaching test prep, students who are preparing to take the test, and how it can be challenging, not only in terms of content, but sometimes even the emotional support that they need. So I really love teaching. Like I said, I'm very passionate about it. And I think that we're all here together to grow and help our students grow as well. So let's get started here. The chat box is open. Please feel free to send in comments, questions. I'll do my best to keep up with you guys. Okay, and if I miss a question, forgive me, but somehow I'll get back to it. And by the end of our meeting today, I'll try to answer all of the questions. And of course, I'm going to ask you to share your comments, share your perception. So be ready to actively use that keyboard, okay? So welcome all, and let's get started. So today, we're going to look into why is vocabulary important for PTE. And we're going to talk about different approaches that you can use, to teach vocabulary. We're going to discuss also the need of choosing an approach, but of course, it's not one and single approach, but sometimes you'll have to mix approaches and change the approach according to the group that you're teaching. And then we're going to talk about activities that you can use effectively in the classroom to promote active learning and active vocabulary, advanced vocabulary learning. So why is vocabulary important for PTE? So Are there any comments here that you would like to share? Why do you feel that vocabulary is important for PTE? What does a student gain by learning vocabulary to take PTE? There you go, Archie, very good. The score is better. I mean, that's the first, and it's not the ultimate goal, but it's the I would say it's the primary goal, to score better. Exactly, okay, understand. Expression of ideas, there you go. So what I love about the PT test is the fact that there are 20 tasks for the student to tackle. And of course, by practicing and preparing the 20 tasks, the student's language will improve because they learn to develop skills. When they're doing the retell lecture, they're listening and then they're reporting, they're manipulating language. So for each task, there is a language plus. And most of the students, they're taking the PT because either they are in an English-speaking country, they intend to go to an English-speaking country, and we know that language is communication. And communication nowadays, it's one of the great keys to success. So by developing language, they will have more opportunities, professional, academic, and personal. So not only are we preparing our students to pass the test, but it's a lifelong experience. Okay, so now, the PT exam will access the students' skills in 4 main sections: writing, speaking, reading, listening. Now, a solid vocabulary will definitely help to articulate concepts. So that's why we need solid vocabulary. Of course, basic vocabulary cannot be dismissed. We need it. It's the foundation for everyday communication. Now, how can we establish and how is basic vocabulary, how does basic vocabulary differ from advanced vocabulary? So basically in complexity, frequency of use, of course, and the context in which they are used. So when we have basic vocabulary, we're going to use it in everyday communication. But advanced vocabulary, we will need. And advanced vocabulary, it doesn't mean fancy, awkward words. No, we're talking about preciseness. We're talking about really expressing. So that's the main idea here. So the foundation is, the basic vocabulary is the foundation of language, but then in order to develop language, students must be introduced and must learn advanced vocabulary. And once again, we cannot confuse, and we should not confuse awkward words, plethora or something like that, with advanced vocabulary. Advanced vocabulary is about preciseness, accuracy, and that's what we're going to look into. We're going to compare and see how we can help our students really acquire advanced vocabulary. Now, is vocabulary more important than grammar? Oh, I showed the answer, but here we go. Maybe you may have a different, but now I've already showed it. So the simple answer is that yes, vocabulary is more important than grammar. Are there any ideas here that you would like to share, please? Is it a yes or is it a no for you? Of course, this is a very limited view to a certain extent. Okay. Okay, but I can see that you guys agree with me. We're on the same page. Very well. So my justification for this is that it is possible to convey meaning, even making a grammar mistake, right? Oh, there we go. So without vocabulary, you cannot express your ideas, Mariam. That's it. Yes, of course, Gerline, basic knowledge of grammar is important for sure. A basic level, I agree 100%. There we go, Jenna. So vocabulary is the building blocks of communication, definitely. Okay, as I said, we're on the same page. That's great. Ask me, to a certain extent, I mean, you have to have a minimal level of grammar for sure. But take a look here. For example, if I say, we go dance last night, the verb tense is wrong. However, you can still understand it, right? Noon, very good. Now, remember, we're not dealing with the concept of grammar and vocabulary and so on in test conditions. We're dealing with in a general perspective, okay? So we go dance last night. The message is quite clear, right? Okay. Now, if I say I hungry, the absence of the verb to be here, it really doesn't impede that the person who is saying I hungry is telling someone that they are hungry, right? So to a certain level of comprehension, communication is established, right? Of course, these are very limited, it's a limited view, but it's just for us to get into, you know, the idea of vocabulary. Now, on the other hand, having grammar, but not having the necessary words leaves the speaker unable to communicate. So can I have a, but if you don't know how to say the that you need or that you want, you're still stuck there, right? You're using perfect structure, the verb at the beginning of the sentence, but this is not what we're looking for. So not knowing the vocabulary item to specify what you want is really useless, even if your grammar structure is perfect. Now, if I say have water, or have water, or just have water, it doesn't even really matter the intonation that you're using, but the message is here. The person who says have water wants water. So to like I said, to a certain extent, vocabulary is priority, okay? Now, vocabulary learning never stops, even after the grammar system is firmly in place. So the other day I was writing an article and I needed a word for important, and it suddenly came to me, remarkable. I mean, this is such a cool word, and I had forgotten about it because we need to recycle and to use vocabulary in order to keep it in shape. It's kind of like our body and our mind. We have to keep it in shape. So even when you feel that your grammars, you have already, you have a certain level of grammar that you can write, read, and speak well. So it's a long-term process and continuous. We never stop. So, and I'm sure that all of you at some point when you need, you reach out, to those antonyms and synonyms dictionaries online. Okay, I'm really happy to see that we're all on the same page here. So for PT vocabulary, now let's look into a little bit, let's dive into PT specifically. In the score guide, if you read the score guide carefully, vocabulary is divided into two main, points: wide range of vocabulary and linguistic range. So what is the difference between the wide range and the linguistic range? Now, Bartik mentioned that there will be a list of academic allocation. And this is definitely, we don't want our students to memorize it because they're going to try to just shove it in, to shove in collocations, and it may sound totally inappropriate and unnatural. So the academic allocations, this is definitely one of the elements that will show the difference between basic and advanced vocabulary. So we should encourage our students for sure. Let's see here, I have here, ASME, wide range is different words used to convey the same meaning. Okay, there you go. Gerline, understanding regular usage is much better, of course. So it refers to an individual that can understand and use a diverse set of words. Just simply put, like Asmi said, in a different, wide range, in are different words used to convey the same meaning. However, the student will know, or the speaker will know, the difference between formal and informal, the difference of technical language and academic and everyday language. Okay, linguistic range is using topic appropriate language. Okay, now linguistic range is to the wide variety of linguistic features that a student can has in his own hard disk, let's suppose, and the ability to adapt and manipulate language according to the different communicative context and the purpose, and even to whom you're speaking, right? So when I'm speaking to an audience of teachers like here, I can use some, academic vocabulary and even some teaching expressions that in a normal, let's suppose, sitting at a table having dinner with friends, I would not use, right? The learning process and so on. So it refers to a specific group. So let's compare some elements here. So it says here, understanding regular usage. I'm keeping an eye here on the chat box. So when you have formal, take a look, a simple, basic vocabulary. The study showed positive results. Now, if we're going into an advanced level, we will say the research findings demonstrated favorable outcomes, indicating a significant improvement in patient recovery rates. So, I mean, that is taking it to the level of advanced vocabulary. When we look here, significant improvement, patient recovery rates. So these are collocations. They are academic collocations, recovery rates, favorable outcomes. So remember we talked about the list? Of course, it sounds natural, but it sounds also very advanced. Don't refer to advanced vocabulary as sophisticated. Advanced vocabulary is preciseness, accuracy, clarity, okay? So always when you're thinking of advanced vocabulary, have your mindset on these elements. Now, technical or scientific, let's take a look here. The experiment was successful. That's the basic standard, B1 student, there we go. Now, we want to take him to C1. The experimental trial yielded promising results, confirming the hypothesis and suggesting potential applications in biomedical engineering. So now, once again, it's detailed, it's accurate, it's precise, it's, how could I say, it's illustrative, right? So the advanced vocabulary has this characteristic of being illustrative. So when you read it, or when you're listening to someone who is using this kind of vocabulary, it's very clear, clarity. Okay. Are we good here? Do you guys have any examples that you have already, come across that can show this difference of simple and advanced? Very good. So when I say expanded here, it's the same, the concept of advanced vocabulary, it's expanded in the sense, once again, of clarity, being illustrative, precise, and accurate. Now, let's look at linguistic range when it comes to formal or informal. So informal, we would say a lot, but if we're going to the linguistic range, we're going to numerous, several, depending on the context and the exact quantity that we want to say or to refer to. Now, in writing, let's suppose essay writing. Instead of just saying happy, there are so many other words that we can use. Overjoyed, I really like that. I like the word overjoyed. And the good using overjoyed not only shows the range, but it also shows the complexity that this is a compound word. So once again, words with prefixes. These are words that will definitely show advanced range of vocabulary. And then we have the technical or scientific. So bad is that basic word, but we have ineffective, unsuitable, or non-compliant. So this is the linguistic range. For those of you who eventually write articles or you publish, because to a certain, there are moments in life that when we want to express our ideas, we write. The variety, the linguistic range is very important for your text not to sound repetitive nor redundant, okay? There you go, Gerlin, inappropriate. Very good option too, for bad. Excellent. One more for me to add to my list. Okay, so let's take a word, for example, like people. So the word people is really, really funny if you look at students' writings in essays. So they repeat people several times, numerous. Now, how can you avoid, for example, repeating people? You have to know, who are these people? So who are these people that they're referring to? Are they consumers? Are they students? Are they citizens? So to avoid and, not be the basic people, you need to encourage your students to also investigate their own writing and their own language. So who are these people that you're saying here? So people believe this and this. Well, who believes? Is it the citizens, the population, the consumers, right? So that's another way. When you have a basic word, take it a little step further. Encourage them to investigate and to challenge them to avoid repeating and using these basic words. There we go. Darwin-Preet, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Individuals, humans, mankind, inhabitants, when we're dealing with a specific context. Beautiful. That's exactly it. So let's research different approaches. So how can teachers teach advanced vocabulary? Well, of course, practice is practice. We know that a lot of actions that we do in the classroom, it's a little bit intuitive, and also it's based on our experience. But back there somewhere, we were taught strategies, we were taught how to, theories. I mean, who hasn't studied all of those approaches to teach language, right? Gerlin, yes, encouraging and, promoting reading, that the students read more, definitely. But I'm going a step further here. I'm talking about really having a principle, a theory to support your teaching. There you go, by making a different word from a root word. You know that there's a little game that I play with the students as a warm-up technique, because nowadays all students, they all have their devices, their mobile phones in the classroom. And instead of fighting it, I've tried to incorporate it in a way that you don't have to really, the student can use the device and not fight with your students not to use the device. The root word, you can use even these artificial intelligence now that are available. So you can go there to ChatGPT and say, okay, words that derive from, let's suppose, take a word like study, words that derive from study, words that derive from environment. So then they will automatically have extended vocabulary there. And you can ask the AI even to have it at advanced level. So words that derive or words that are related to environment, advanced level. Okay, so that's another idea that I really try to incorporate is instead of fighting the students with the electronic devices, they can use it, but we have to guide them and we have to give them the tasks. Kahoot is a great way. So there are many elements that you can use, many different technological resources that can help you too for advanced vocabulary. So mind maps is one way that I've teaching students how to do and work with mind maps. Now we have to remember that each student is very unique. For some students, mind maps can be a success. Other students may definitely, just hate the concept of having to work so hard on mind maps. But mind map is a visual representation of what's going on in your head. So some students really enjoy this because they're more creative and they have another perception of dealing with their learning process. So I've seen students who really thrive when using mind maps. It will contribute to learning for sure. So Raj, you say by using words on a daily basis. That's it, but using advanced vocabulary on a daily basis, it doesn't come so naturally, okay? Because let's suppose you work in an environment that is not academic. You work in an environment. The other day, I had a student who he worked installing air conditioners. So his opportunity to use advanced vocabulary is very limited. So this is the student that you really have to push, and he needs to have the classroom and us teachers as their guide to advanced vocabulary. Because the basic vocabulary, they can deal with it very easily. And they're even competent, really competent in the everyday language. Yes, of course. There you go, Daminpreet. There are so many, strategies that they can learn. Visualization, the set of words, certainly. Mind maps is one. So the strategy really empowers active learning and assists students to use their learning styles to move beyond the passive role. So that's what I really like about the mind maps. The students, they have to put themselves out there. They have to really produce, and not in a regular way, like we know, fill in the gaps, do this, do that. But no, they go beyond. So whenever you can encourage them and present the idea, and nowadays there's so many, features that you can do, even virtual mind maps. You don't have to do any more on pencil and paper. So there are many nice options of virtual mind maps. And I would say that many of our students that we have in the classroom nowadays, they're very techy. So, and even the ones who aren't techy, if you teach them, they will like it. The contribution to learning, yet it benefits visual learners, but it can also support those who learn by listening, those who learn by manipulating, that they are kinesthetic learners, because there is the way that you deal with a mind map, you have to use all of these resources to a certain extent. So that's why it's really helpful. Visual learners definitely, but we are a mix of learner. We don't learn only in one way. It may be predominant, the auditory or the visual or the kinesthetic, but the other ones are also there, in the backstage. So there is one that is, predominant, but definitely somehow all of the learning components, they come together. So let me check out here, the chat box. Have you ever used mind maps? Have any of you tried mind maps? Yes, okay. There you go, Gurleen. Every student is so unique, right? Sure. And do you find it's effective and productive to use mind maps? Okay. Now, vocabulary exercises. It's definitely important for you to use exercises. When a student starts to build vocabulary, and so I would say that vocabulary, it goes like 3 stages. The first one is the student being aware, raising the student's awareness of the difference of basic and, advanced vocabulary. The second one is that the student will, once he's aware, he's going to start to observe how advanced vocabulary is used. And then is the third stage, when he will try to start to apply it, take risks. So it is a process. And that's why sometimes showing, illustrating is the beginning. But even before that, the awareness, explaining to the student the need, the importance, the relevance of advanced vocabulary and how it can contribute. Actually, you're not aware about these maps, okay? It's fruitful, okay? The mind maps, yes, we're still here in the mind maps, okay? Let me come check. Images, that's it. They help to remember Miranda, definitely. Now, when it comes to vocabulary exercises, the advantage of the vocabulary exercise is that they also review basic vocabulary and at the same time, grammar structures. So it kind of like, it is a background, but it is active learning as well. So vocabulary lists are good, okay, definitely, but exercises where they have to really manipulate vocabulary and think it through and find solutions, that is indeed much more productive, I would say. But lists are there. There is a purpose to the list, and it's not to memorize. Please, we don't really want our students to memorize, because once they memorize, the idea then of just shoving it in. Have you ever read a paragraph where the student has tried to put in so much complex structures and complex words and advanced vocabulary that the sentence just doesn't make sense? So that is something that we want. We don't want our students to do this. We want them to use it appropriately with consciousness. Because once they're conscious, okay, so there's a suggestion here of mind map inspiration. It is Tony Buzan, mind map book, definitely. If you guys really want to look into mind map a little bit more, this is a great reference. So vocabulary exercises, they are really effective. Let me see. Can you suggest different vocabulary exercises? So the same type of exercise you can use across several levels. Today, I'm going to bring some examples here. So Gerline, and other students too, if you have any, suggestions of vocabulary exercises, please just chip in the chat box. So the learner's attention is to a particular vocabulary item. So they will learn how to use effective vocabulary according to the task. And even exercises that we feel are gap filling. Some teachers, they reject gap filling exercises, but they are very useful and very helpful. So because it's one way of having the student contextualize and learn vocabulary. So Sania, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. When a student doesn't even know what a word means, how can he solve the exercise? That's it, he can't. That's why we need to teach our students from basic, from A to Z. And of course, we teach, but they have to be active learners. They need to have the joy of learning, And when we have the joy of teaching, you will see they will have the joy of learning as well, okay? Using newspaper to build vocabulary. So that's another element. We always should encourage our students to read content that is well developed. So not any newspaper, not any part of the newspaper. They need to read they need the references that are well structured. Because if you read wrong, you may end up learning wrong. So we don't want that either. So BBC is a good option. There are many good, the review, the editing team at BBC is very competent. So we want to encourage our students to, of course, there are the silly moments, the YouTubers and whatever that they just love it. But in terms of learning and teaching, we want to guide them. So vocabulary exercises are really effective. My experience is to focus on teaching target words using different exercises. So let's suppose you're teaching a word group of like emotions, feelings. So you can have them list the words and categorize if it's a noun, a verb, an adjective. So that's one way. You can have gap filling, mind maps, okay? Watching broadcasts for understanding vocabulary. There you go. Podcasts are really nice. There are some students, they're really interested in a certain area. I have several students who they love listening to criminal podcasts. So they really learn a lot of vocabulary involved in criminal and police and, crime solving. So encourage them. Of course, they may end up being a little bit limited, but they are developing skills. They're developing listening. They're developing ingraining vocabulary. And when they're listening to podcasts that are done, many podcasts, it's like a lawyer reporting or an investigator. Most of the time, they have a certain level of vocabulary within the criminal scope that is really, advanced. The learning outcome. So the learner's retention of acquiring words is really high, principally if it's repeated. Animated movie, cartoons, definitely. Okay, so I'm going to open up a little space here, Wakar. That was a very good idea that you just mentioned. We want to encourage our students to learn and to improve. Now, if we ask, let's suppose, a B1 student to start watching, series, they may feel that the level of the language is just way beyond, and then they may be discouraged. So we need to also help them grow. So if we take cartoons, for example, animated movies, there are levels too. There are some animated movies that they're designed for adults. So that's not where we want to go suddenly as a first step. The first step, we want to take it in a in a more accessible language for them. So we always have to be careful that we don't go too beyond, a little bit beyond, yes, but it has to be beyond enough that the student won't feel completely out of place, okay, to begin with. Yes, make small summaries. So many students, depending the generation, they are not used to writing so much. They're very visual. They watch videos. So one way to encourage them to get into the groove, let's suppose, is have them record a summary instead of write, because writing sometimes they can think of it as boring, but if they have to record, and once they record, then the next step is that they transfer their recording to a writing. So then they grow together. So, Gerline, that's also, we should work according to the student's interest. If you were teaching a general class, I would say yes, always. Students' needs are there. But when we're teaching preparation for PTE, we have a goal to reach. So all of our teaching strategies and content is for that one goal, that the student learns how to answer all 20 tasks. And it's not gaming the system, okay? I mean, I really wish that from the participations in the chat box, I can see that you're really into teaching and into, the reward of the student's learning process. So that's what I mean about teaching. So that's why different strategies, different theories, that's how you're going to teach vocabulary. So vocabulary retention, definitely. So using different exercises and different types. Unfamiliar words. So that was a question here. Unfamiliar words, they will learn. They will learn if it's multiple, if it's gap filling. We can start with teaching them how to analyze the rejection, eliminating. And in neurolinguistics, there are many studies that have been developed, and they will continue for sure, that how do we trigger the information that we have in our hard disk? I call it a hard disk, but that's our memory, in fact. So we have a lot of information. We've been exposed, and our students too, they've been exposed to so many, context and usage of language. How do we trigger that? How do we help our students trigger and use all of that is there? One way is by voicing. There is a little trigger there. There's an association, it's related. And neurolinguistics is still really refining this, but they have already identified that when the student voices, there is a trigger there. And there is that thing, oh, this sounds right or this sounds wrong. Of course, there's a very theoretical background there, but ultimately, by voicing, the student has this, it sounds right or it sounds wrong. Even sometimes when it's a new word, because he may have seen that word already. So encourage your students to voice. Voicing is definitely one excellent exercise to do in class. Now, when we're dealing with vocabulary exercises, there are different ways to categorize it. So we're going to begin here with selective attention. So here the learners are presented with a list of words, and they have to, select the word, they need to fit in the word, they need to organize the words. Then there's recognition. So the learners need to relate the word and form to its meaning. Manipulation, this is really when they have to, they are required to arrange the elements, organize phrases, refer to all of their background that they have in terms of morphological and grammar now. Interpretation. So interpretation is when learners, they are required to create connection between the vocabulary and other words in the text. So it's contextualizing, right? And then production. So learners must recall, they must reconstruct and retrieve vocabulary items. This is the voicing part. Now, selective attention. Let's think now of the PTE tasks. And now we're going to dig in. Selective attention can be highlight incorrect word, right? So that's one way. Fill in the blanks, of course. Reorder paragraphs and essay. This is part of manipulation. Interpreting, describe image. And then retell lecture for production. But there are 20 tasks in PTE, right? So now that we have a bunch of experts here in PTE, PTE teachers, let's see, what other tasks can you fit into this chart? What other tasks would you consider as selective attention, recognition? I'll give you guys a few seconds there to go through it and suggest what other tasks could we put in recognition, let's suppose. Or others. Okay, so there is a question here that I'm going to come back to it, okay? Mahnur, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'll come back to it very soon, in just a few minutes. So understanding the hierarchies of vocabulary exercises, it helps you define, okay, so today I'm going to develop a little bit of recognition and interpretation. So what tasks in PT need and use this skill, okay? So let me check the chat box here, essay writing. So these are different tasks, but I'm trying to link what tasks in PT are connected to or relate to selective attention or relate to recognition or manipulation, for example. So let's take write from dictation. That is a task that is really important. It holds high scores. So in which one would you fit do you think that write from dictation fits in? Is it selective? Is it recognition? Is it manipulation? Production. So they have to recall and retrieve vocabulary items. Okay, that can be it. Yes, it can be part of production. Do you guys recognition? So recognition in the sense that learners need to relate the word form and its meaning. Not really for write from dictation. The word form is not really important there, right? Because they are given all the words. They have to organize and to be able to transfer from what they hear to writing. So it includes recognizing the word, retrieving the vocabulary item. There you go. Good job. That's it. Okay, now select activities to develop students' advanced vocabulary. Before coming in here, I'm going to go back to Manur's question. But students don't get interest. They're not interested in learning advanced vocabulary. And if they learn certain advanced words, they forget after a short period. So is there a solution to this? There is a solution, but once again, language learning takes time. I've overcome this, but there was a time back that when I would see learn English in 6 months, and it was like I would just cringe at the thought of, this kind of idea. And worse was this people believing that this could happen. Oh, you can learn English in 6 months. So it takes time, and that's where we come in. Okay. We come in with this variety of exercises, with variety of opportunities. So and review, repeat. Okay. It is, that is a fact. There isn't really a magic formula, but there are steps and actions that we teachers can take to really encourage and the student having the feeling that he really can start to apply advanced vocabulary. So Dharman print, of course, so audio, visual, kinesthetic, that's it. But that's all involved in the teacher offering opportunities and encouraging the students and being empathetic to the fact that it takes time. And I always relate to the students that sometimes I'm searching for words and I'm looking for words because, like I said, I don't want to repeat important. And it's such a common word, important, but suddenly when you use remarkable, it is a step higher, right? A step beyond. So definitely, we play a very important role. It's true, but we also have to put them, allow them to put themselves out there, to take risks, to make mistakes. We learn so much from mistakes. And that's something that we have to teach our students to, that they learn from mistakes. So practice makes perfect. Here we go. So to improve and work with a wide range of vocabulary, rewriting sentences. I've learned that they really love this task because to a certain extent, they have to think, but they're not totally on their own. They have reference. You can allow them, like I said, to use synonyms and antonyms, to go to the AI. So because they are using language. So from rewriting sentences, this is really a good task. Vocabulary logs. So keeping vocabulary logs, I've had several examples of students who had vocabulary logs, and they definitely scored 90 across all tasks, all sub-skills. And of course, vocabulary played a crucial role when it comes to high score. Students who achieve high scores, they have this element in their knowledge, vocabulary, advanced vocabulary, trust me. So vocabulary logs and word roots and affixes, like I said. So using AI, so teaching students about words that the prefix "un." What is the prefix "un"? What is the prefix "ship"? So once again, different ways of dealing with vocabulary, using different exercise types, and even if you're repeating the same word group. So let's deal with health. So you're going to do gap filling, you're going to do rewriting sentences, you're going to encourage them to log the vocabulary, you're going to teach them health, unhealthy, So that is one way of dealing with vocabulary. Now, for linguistic range, of course, it's one of the best ways is the formal writing assignments, essays, reports. So that requires students to use formal language and incorporate evidence. So argumentative essays, which we know scores the best in PTE, because obviously it is more complex to develop. So the idea of developing an argumentative essay, one side, the other side. So this requires advanced vocabulary for you to show the opposite, the contrast. Listening and comprehension, by listening, they learn a lot. So having them listen to, and I don't know if you're aware, but nowadays TED Talks, they have those 3-minute, those snaps of lectures. They are really good to use as reference and to teach our students to help them develop vocabulary. The TED Talks of these 3-minute snippets, they are really cool. And of course, discussion, having our students discuss. And you can put together discussion groups, the shorts, that's it. Anchal, the 3-minute TED Talks, I love them. And of course, reflexive tasks. So always give feedback to our students. So teachers should give regular feedback in discussions, showing the accuracy. So our feedback is definitely, it will encourage the student, it will promote learning. We need to be really attentive and there on the spot, encouraging, correcting, providing feedback to our students. So for more tasks, here we go. I love using Kahoot. If you've never used it, try it. You will love it. Once again, they will be with their electronic devices. They feel good, depending the gen. And I'm talking about not only kids. I see many adults that when they can have their phones in their hands, they feel good. They feel better about it. So encourage some moments in the class to use it. So Kahoot is really nice. Quizlet, I use it, but not as much. I feel that Kahoot is more teacher friendly. Crossword puzzles, nowadays you can do it online, right? There are websites that you bring in the list and you say, okay, make the crossword puzzle. And you can encourage them to make a crossword puzzle and then they will exchange it with other students. So one student that's working in peers, that also is very productive. So gamification is a great way to bring vocabulary. Of course, I wouldn't say that it is the main source, definitely not, but gaming can definitely be an excellent resource to encourage and to promote interest. Synonyms and antonyms when they explore, so have them explore. Once again, allow them to go to AI, allow them to share, because suddenly one student may not be very familiar with a certain area, but he is, like I said, the student that loves listening to criminal podcasts, he's going to have a lot to share with other students. Some students, they like cooking, so they love watching cooking videos, so they can share other experience. So the most important thing is before conducting a process of teaching and learning in the classroom, you need to have a basis. You need to understand the concepts of teaching vocabulary, definitely. So let's wrap it up. Here we go. So what are some common challenges you face when teaching advanced vocabulary? So here there was the question of how do we promote student interest? So that was manure, definitely. How do we promote that? What are common challenges you face? One of them is the students are not interested. That can happen. So what other challenges? Okay, Darman, I think this is with Bartik. The students, they're asking to share the link.
Yes, they will appear in a second.
Okay, thank you. So Berlin, hesitant to learn new things. Yes, they are quite hesitant. Miranda, like you said, simply it's hard to learn. Yeah, It's one of the challenges. Students feel this level of difficulty. Now, why is teaching vocabulary to PT test takers important? There we go. We started off talking about PT and advanced vocabulary, but why is teaching vocabulary to PT test takers important? ASME, you feel that they learn, but they can't apply advanced vocabulary. They will apply for sure if they're preparing for the test. There we go. They should know how to apply. Okay. To communicate better, of course. Like I said, if a student is taking a PT prep course, the ultimate goal that he really wants is to score high. But he will only score high if his language, the score reflects the student's knowledge, language knowledge, okay? Vocabulary makes them efficient. That's it. Learning vocabulary, good. And now, do teachers have to assess students' vocabulary knowledge? Is it our job to really assess and, check? Of course, it's part of the job, right? Random checks, there we go. Definitely. These are just questions for us to reflect. I think being a reflexive teacher will help us develop, and there's always room for learning and for, growing. What do you enjoy most about teaching advanced vocabulary to students? Build confidence, very good, Artie. When teachers, give feedback to students. That's it. So ASME, remember what I said that we don't teach lists? Lists is the step when you're going to tell the student, this is a list. Now you are aware that there are academic allocations. So that's the moment of awareness. The second moment is recognition. They start to recognize when they listen, when they read. The third step is really to apply and to take risks using collocations. So it doesn't come overnight, okay? There we go, Brilliant. Definitely establish strong relationship with your students. It is. So teaching advanced vocabulary to students, get them motivated. Leticia, that's a great point. Very good. Motivate them. Definitely. They really love learning new words and applying and getting it right. You can see that. So what you just said, so Nitika, how students, they nurture us, right? How they motivate teachers. So it's a source of energy being in the classroom for teachers. Makes them feel confident. Definitely. Building stories step by step, that's really nice too. We definitely learn with students in all ways, right? So what resources or materials do you find helpful for teaching advanced vocabulary? So of course, there are the synonyms and antonyms dictionaries. What other resources or materials do you find helpful? Okay, sorry. Videos, artificial intelligence, trust me, it is something that really students, they are enthusiastic about using it. Somehow they feel that they're up to date. It gives them a good feeling too. Take words, give them online exercises. Online exercises are great. Now, the good thing about online exercises, it's like double there. And many students, they come to us for PT prep, and they're not really proficient computer, keyboard users. So when we give them more and more exercises online, they also develop the skill of becoming familiar, of becoming, you know, confident, and using the keyboard is natural for them. And they need this as well for the PTE test. Glossaries, very good, Letitia. That it's like a vocabulary log. Guys, I can't believe it that it's over. I don't know about you guys, but I had a great time here. Like I said, I always love talking to teachers. We have something in common indeed, but seeing the joy of the comments in the chat box of you teachers, the vocabulary list, Amandeep. So Bartik is going to help us with that.
Okay, so I've shared 3 links with you in the chat, but as people were replying, so they might get lost, but do not worry, because I will put them in the follow-up emails that you will get from the Zoom account, and you will have, in case you missed the one from the chat, you will get the link to the certificate, to the survey, and to the collocation list. So if you have it right now, that's cool. If not, you will get it by 2 days at the latest with all the materials that I've shared with you in the chat. Thank you, Anna. That
if
was
you guys scroll back, right? They will find it somehow if they scroll back.
Yes,
right?
if they scroll back right now, you'll be able to spot it.
Guys, thank you so much for the time here. I had a great time, like I said. I learned a lot, and I hope that you also, we shared a lot of experience. Thank you so much, Bartik, for the opportunity of, you know, meeting these teachers.
Thank you. And Maria, one question: how can I get the recording? The recording will be placed at the Around the World with PTE Academic webinars that you'll be able to access all the recordings there. So thanks a lot, Anna, for sharing your thoughts. Thanks a lot for inspiring us around the world. Thank you all, dear attendees, preparation providers, and teachers around the world for being with us, for interacting. So I hope that you found some inspiration and just you will transform this beautiful idea into practice within the language exam preparation classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.